Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So last week I mentioned something and I did not have the complete word for word, so I included it now today. Last week I was talking about the 4 inherent defects of a conditioned soul. A conditioned soul inherently has 4 defects. And because of these 4 defects, the human being or the conditioned soul cannot independently understand or realize the absolute truth. Therefore, the conditioned soul needs the instruction of a liberated soul who does not have these 4 defects. So what are those 4 defects of a conditioned soul? Number 1, Karana Apatava. This is Bengali language, which I got from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Karana Apatava means imperfect senses. I think all of us can understand that we have imperfect senses. Now, because of those imperfect senses, we must make mistakes. And the Bengali word Brahma. Because of imperfect senses, we're bound to make mistakes. In the English idiom, they have this phrase, to err is human. Yes, every human being has faults, makes mistakes. Now, the next symptom of a conditioned soul is called vipralipsa, cheating propensity. We see that cheating propensity in business dealings or in dealings between husband and wife. Sometimes there is cheating, or when it comes time to pay taxes, that cheating propensity arises. And of course, my favorite example of cheating is the politician. That is how he makes his livelihood. The politician is always cheating, saying one thing to one group and then saying the complete opposite to another group, because all he wants to do is get your valuable vote. He doesn't believe in anything but whatever it takes to get the vote, I will say. And we are seeing this so much now in Americano politics. Ever since the last so many years, cheating. It's so ridiculous. I'm sure in Panama it's not like that. Ha ha ha. So that is the 3rd symptom, vipralipsa in Bengali, cheating. And all these together, Karanapatava, Brahma, vipralipsa, imperfect senses, mistakes, and cheating, what is the result? Pramada, illusion. Because the conditioned soul is infected with these 4 defects, the conditioned soul is bound to be in illusion. But if you begin to accept a spiritual master, if you begin to accept Krishna book, then you will start to rise above these 4 inherent defects. So stay with the program. Continue to hear this Krishna book, because every word of this Krishna book is free from these 4 defects. And the more you hear this Krishna book, you begin to rise above these 4 defects. And one day, when you are self-realized, you will be free from the 4 defects. So now we review what we studied last week. Last week, we heard the aftermath of the Muchukunda episodes. Muchukunda, when leaving the cave, understood that it was almost the beginning of Kali Yuga. Because as I mentioned last week, when did Kali Yuga actually begin? It began the moment Krishna left this planet and went back to Godhead at the end of the Maushala-lila, the annihilation of Krishna's own family, the Yadu dynasty. We will end our Krishna book classes with that Maushala-lila. It's not actually in Krishna book, but it is found in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But I'm going to present that at the end because you should hear the complete, because we started with the appearance of Krishna, actually before the appearance of Krishna. And so actually we should finish with the Maushala-lila and when Krishna goes back home, back to Godhead. Then, last week, we also heard a new name for Krishna, Ranachora, one who left the battlefield. And Jarasandha thought that Krishna was afraid of him. And I pointed out, and Prabhupada pointed out, that Jarasandha, although he had been defeated 17 times by Krishna, where Krishna annihilated his whole army 17 times, and each time he let Jarasandha go home wagging his tail, and each time Jarasandha gathered another army of demons and attacked Krishna, and Krishna killed. Because this was all part of Krishna's plan. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam. Brahma and Mother Earth requested Krishna to come down because Mother Earth was overburdened by the unnecessary defense force of so many demons. And the demons had a united nations centered around Kamsa. Kamsa had an alliance with all the demons we heard in the beginning chapters. All the demons were mentioned that Kamsa had arranged an alliance of demons. So Krishna specifically came to annihilate from the earth all of those demons. So by Jarasandha attacking Krishna 17 times with his armies, Krishna was removing the burden. So the 18th attack, Krishna decided that he did not want to fight Jarasandha. And so Krishna and Balaram went to the top of a mountain. And Jarasandha decided, oh, Krishna does not want to fight me. Therefore, Jarasandha set fires all around the mountain. And he thought, oh, now Krishna has died because of the fires I have set. But what Jarasandha didn't know is that Krishna and Balaram jumped from the top of the mountain 88 miles away and escaped. So because Krishna left the battlefield, he has this name, Ranachora. And Prabhupada mentioned in Gujarat, there are several temples of Krishna as Ranachora. And lastly, we heard how Balaram got his wife, Revati. And a summary was given of Krishna's marriage to Rukmini. And that was the real reason why Krishna left the battlefield. Krishna left the battlefield not because he was afraid of Jarasandha, because He had already defeated him 17 times. No, Krishna was aware that very soon Rukmini was going to contact him. And so Krishna was more interested in seeing to the rescue of Rukmini and not have to bother with this silly Jarasandha who he had defeated 17 times. So this is where we pick up. So this first episode is called Rukmini's Dilemma. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. As you can detect, I am in a very, very good mood today. I have lots of energy today. So today you are going to get extra blessings from me if you stay to the end of the class. If you leave, I can't bless you. You have to stay to the end. Okay? Can you hear the bell? Okay, good. All right, so let's go. Episode entitled Rukmini's Dilemma. The story of Krishna's marriage with Rukmini is herein described. The king of Vidarbha, Maharaj Bhishmaka, was a very qualified and devoted prince. He had 5 sons, but only 1 daughter. The first son was known as Rukmi, the second Rukmarata, the third Rukmabahu, the fourth Rukmakesha, and the 5th Rukmamali. The brothers had 1 young sister, Rukmini. Rukmini was very beautiful and chaste, and was meant to be married to Lord Krishna. Many saintly persons and sages like Narada Muni used to visit the palace of Bhishmaka, and naturally Rukmini had a chance to talk with them. And in this way Rukmini obtained information about Krishna. Rukmini was thus informed about the 6 opulences of Krishna. And simply by hearing about Krishna, Rukmini desired to surrender herself to Krishna's lotus feet and become his wife. Now, this concept here that simply by hearing about Krishna, Rukmini desired to surrender, this is also applicable to us. This is why we hear this Krishna book or Krishna-lila. Simply by hearing about Krishna, we will eventually get to the point where we will want to surrender to Krishna. Krishna had also heard of Rukmini. Rukmini was the reservoir of all transcendental qualities. She had intelligence, auspicious physical features. She was liberal-minded. She had exquisite beauty and righteous behavior. Krishna therefore decided that Rukmini was fit to be his wife. All of the relatives of King Bhishmaka decided that Rukmini should be given in marriage to Krishna. But Rukmini's elder brother, Rukmi, despite the desire of all the others, arranged for Rukmini's marriage with Shishupal, who was a determined enemy of Krishna. There is other information in the Puranas that this Shishupal was so envious of Krishna that from Shishupal's very birth, he blasphemed Krishna. And there was a prediction given that when Shishupal would blaspheme Krishna the 100th time, then Shishupal would be killed. But Shishupal began his blasphemy from his very birth. When the black-eyed, beautiful Rukmini heard of the settlement, Rukmini immediately became very morose. However, being the daughter of a king, Rukmini could understand political diplomacy, and Rukmini decided that there was no use in simply being morose. Some steps should be taken immediately. This is another point. We notice in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna several times says to Arjuna, Natvam sochitum arhasi, where Krishna tells Arjuna, you do not deserve to lament. So this is instructive to us also. All of us, at some point or another, are going to meet with disappointment. All of us are going to meet with frustration, but we should not waste time simply lamenting. As it says here, some steps should be taken immediately. That means using intelligence to overcome one's situation. And where do you get that intelligence? Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. If you take advantage of your spiritual master, saintly persons, and the scriptures, you should have enough there to make an intelligent plan how to overcome your setbacks. After some deliberation, Rukmini decided to send a message to Krishna. And so, that she might not be deceived, Rukmini selected a qualified Brahmana as her messenger. Such a qualified Brahmana is always truthful and is a devotee of Vishnu. Without delay, Rukmini sent the Brahmana to Dwaraka. So, in Bhagavad Gita, we studied the 9 symptoms of a Brahmana. In the 18th chapter, Krishna outlined the symptoms of a Brahmana. Shamadamaktapak saucham, kshantir arjavam evacha, jnanam vijnanam astikyam, brahmakarma swabhavajam. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the Brahmana is not born. The Brahmana is trained, or the Brahmana acts according to these 9 symptoms. Birth is not the criteria. What is criteria is how a person acts. For instance, here in America, there is a popular expression. If it talks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it acts like a duck, it's a duck. So in the same way, if one acts like a Brahmana, if one behaves like a Brahmana, if one lives by these Brahmanical symptoms, then one is a Brahman. And here it was mentioned, is also a devotee of Vishnu. That's the last quality, Astikyam. Full faith in Krishna and the Vedas. That is Astikyam. So, Shama, control of the mind, Dhamma, control of the senses. Shama Dhamma Tapa. A Brahmana is austere, practices austerities. Just like coming up for me in 2 days is Ekadashi, so that's austerity. Shama Dhamma Tapak Shaucham. A Brahmana is clean, just like every week before I give this class, I take a shower, I take a bath, so that I am clean and in Brahminical mentality. Shamadamatapakshocham shantir. A Brahmana is forgiving, tolerant. Shantir evacha jnanam. A Brahmana has good knowledge, especially transcendental knowledge. Vijnanam. And the Brahmana does not just have knowledge, the Brahmana acts in accordance with that knowledge, and therefore he is vijnana. He has some realization. Just having book knowledge, that's not sufficient. You have to implement the knowledge. And when you implement the knowledge, then you get factual realization. It becomes scientific, realized. That is the meaning of vijnana. Scientific, realized knowledge. And then finally, Astikyam, where Prabhupada elsewhere says, Astikyam, firm faith in Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So that was the kind of Brahmana Rukmini used. Reaching the gate of Dwaraka, the Brahmana informed the doorkeeper of his arrival. And the doorkeeper led the Brahmana to the place where Krishna was sitting on a golden throne. Since the Brahmana had the opportunity to be Rukmini's messenger, the Brahmana was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is Sarva Karana Karanam, the original cause of all causes. The Brahmana is the spiritual teacher of all the other social divisions, namely Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Lord Sri Krishna, in order to teach everyone the Vedic etiquette of how to respect a Brahmana, immediately got up and offered the Brahmana his own throne. And when the Brahmana was seated on the golden throne, Lord Sri Krishna began to worship the Brahmana exactly as the demigods worship Krishna. In this way, Krishna taught everyone that worshiping his devotee is more valuable than worshiping him. Now this, what Prabhupada says here, is also taught by Lord Shiva, and it is also taught by Krishna himself, that it is more valuable for the person to worship Krishna's devotee than it is to worship Krishna. In due time, the Brahmana took bath, accepted his meal, and lay down to rest on a bedstead, completely bedecked with soft silk. As the Brahmana was resting, Lord Sri Krishna silently approached and with great respect put the Brahmana's legs on his lap and began to massage them. In this way, Krishna appeared before the Brahmana and spoke. My dear Brahmana, I hope that you are executing the religious principles without difficulty and that your mind is always peaceful. Prabhupada now comments, different classes of people in the social system are engaged in various professions. So when one inquires as to the well-being of a particular person, one should do so on the basis of that person's occupation. So right here is a good point to speak about. Not only is this Krishna book giving us transcendental knowledge, but every so often it's giving us very practical information to help us with also our material life. So this I find very interesting, that when you speak to a person, it should be done on the basis of that person's actual life or occupation. Prabhupada continues, therefore, when one inquires as to the welfare of a Brahmana, the question should be worded according to his condition of life so as to not disturb him. A peaceful mind is the basis for becoming truthful, clean, equipoised, self-controlled, and tolerant. So that's why the first symptom of a Brahmana, shama, control of the mind, peaceful mind, as Prabhupada is saying here. If you have that, all the other qualities will easily be acquired. And thus, by attaining knowledge and knowing its practical application in life, vijnana, one becomes convinced about the absolute truth. The Brahmana knew Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And still, the Brahmana accepted the respectful service of Krishna simply on the grounds of Vedic social convention. Lord Sri Krishna was playing. That's an important word. Lord Sri Krishna was playing just like an ordinary human being. And because Krishna belonged to the Kshatriya division of the social system and was a young boy, it was Krishna's duty to show respect to such a Brahmana. So Krishna in Vrindavan, because he was the son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna played like a Vaishya, a cowherder boy. But when Krishna went to Mathura and here Dwaraka, Krishna now is under Vasudeva, his father. And so Vasudeva is a Kshatriya, so Krishna was playing like a Kshatriya. Lord Krishna continued to speak. O best of all the Brahmanas, you should always remain satisfied. For if a Brahmana is always satisfied, he will not deviate from his prescribed duties. And simply by sticking to one's prescribed duties, everyone, especially a Brahmana, can attain the highest perfection of all desires. For even if a person is as opulent as the king of heaven, Indra, if one is not satisfied, he or she inevitably has to transmigrate from one planet to another. And such a person can never be happy under any circumstance. But if one's mind is satisfied, even if one is bereft of all possessions, he or she can be happy living anywhere. Prabhupada now comments. This instruction by Krishna to the Brahman is very significant. The purport is that a true Brahmana should not be disturbed in any situation. In this modern age, Kali Yuga, the so-called Brahmanas have accepted the abominable position of Sudras, or even less, and still they want to pass as qualified Brahmanas. So that again, there again, is the cheating propensity, vipralipsa. This is what happens. We see this all the time. Oh, Prabhu, I am born in a Brahmana family. But then when you inquire, you find out actually they're working like Shudras. This is the cheating propensity. As we already said, if you're going to be a Brahmana, you have to act and work like a Brahmana. Not just say, oh, I am born in a Brahmana family. No, you have to act. I give the example so many times. My father, he was a mechanic. He worked on trucks and cars. And although I am his son, I don't know anything about working on cars and trucks. So how ludicrous it would be for me to say, oh, my father was a mechanic. I am born in a mechanic family, therefore I'm a mechanic. Trust me, you don't want me to fix your car. So in the same way, simply because someone is born in a so-called Brahmana family, if you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have the training, then don't call yourself a Brahmana. Be honest. Don't be a cheater. Prabhupada continues. Actually, the qualified Brahmana always sticks to his own duties and never accepts those of a Shudra or of one less than a Shudra. It is advised in the authorized scriptures that a Brahmana, under awkward circumstances, may accept the profession of a Kshatriya or even a Vaishya, but never can the Brahmana accept the profession of a Shudra. Lord Krishna declared that a Brahmana will never be disturbed by any adverse conditions if the Brahmana scrupulously sticks to his religious principles. In conclusion, Lord Sri Krishna said, now this is Krishna speaking, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for the Brahmanas are always satisfied and Vaishnavas are always engaged in actual welfare work for human society. Vaishnavas are the best friends of the people in general, for they are free from false egoism and are always in a peaceful condition of mind. There is one prayer or mantra that we say when we meet other Vaishnavas. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya evacha patitanang pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my obeisances to Vaishnava devotees. Why? Because they are just like desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone. Because the devotee, the Vaishnava, simply wants to bless everyone with Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada continues. Lord Krishna then desired to know about the Kshatriya rulers in the Brahmana's kingdom. So Krishna inquired whether the citizens of the kingdom were all happy. A king's qualification is judged by the temperament of the people in the kingdom. If they are happy in all respects, it is to be understood that the king is honest and is executing his duties rightly. Krishna said that the king in whose kingdom the citizens are happy is very dear to him. Of course, Krishna could understand that the Brahmana had come with a confidential message. And therefore Krishna said, so my dear Brahmana, if you have no objection, I give you liberty to speak about your mission. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, we're not going to have enough time to do the next section. So the next section we will do next week because it's very important and I will have many comments. So we'll end the class here a little early and save the next section for next week. Now one more thing. I spent some time explaining the qualities of the Brahmana, how he works, how he acts. Because that verse in the 18th chapter of Gita, Brahma Karma, how a Brahmana works or acts. That verse does not say Brahma Janma. Krishna does not accept this notion that one is born a Brahmana, especially in Kali Yuga. Because in Kali Yuga, what's the phrase? Kalau Shudra Sambhava. In Kali Yuga, everyone is born Shudra. Sorry, that's what the Shastras say. Don't get mad at me. My job is to repeat the Shastra. Now, there are 6 occupational duties of a Brahmin. Patan, patan, yajan, yajan, dana, pratigraha. So, patan, patan. See, they come in pairs. Patan means a Brahmana studies the scriptures. That's what a Brahmana does. Just like every day, I spend hours every day studying so that I can do this preaching. Okay, I have to study. If I don't study, then I'll try to speak and it'll be a blah, blah, blah. I won't have anything to say. But if I study, then I can give an excellent class like I did today. So you have to study. And then patan, you have to distribute the knowledge. You have to teach others. Not that I go around, I am big Brahmana, I know so many Shastras, I can quote every verse of Bhagavad Gita. Very nice. But are you sharing it? Are you educating others? That's why I love doing this class. Because I'm educating. I'm sharing. I'm giving you Prabhupada. The best. I'm not giving you any hocus pocus. I'm giving you the best, Prabhupada. I'm giving you what I myself learned. So patan patan. You learn and you distribute, you teach. Yajan yajan. Yajan means you engage in worship of the Lord, deity worship, and you engage others, teach others how to worship. Yajan yajan. Dana pratigraha. A Brahman is meant to give charity. And a Brahmana can accept charity also. So these are the 6 occupations of a Brahmana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.